Okay. Okay, welcome to Imaginary Interviews. I'm going to be doing something a little different this time. I've got my my Chuck Schumer look with the glasses there. But I do have a few notes that I'm reading from. So today we normally we have we begin the program by calling it Imaginary Interviews, interviews with the living, the dead, the real, and the imaginary. Today I'm going to do an imaginary interview with myself. So, like my friend Calvin Harris said one time when I first got to know him some 50 years ago, when I was living in LA, he said he was going to be, when people asked him what he was going to be doing that night, he said he was going to be having dinner with one of the most fascinating people in Los Angeles. He was dining alone, which brings to mind the John F. Kennedy quote, similar to that, when he was welcoming a group of Nobel Prize winners to the White House, and said, "There has never been such a gathering of intellectual, creative minds in the White House since Thomas Jefferson died alone." So I have a few topics that I want to talk to myself about. And so we're not going to use too many notes, but I do have a few. But I'm taking the advice of my friend Ben Gilberti, who suggests we be more spontaneous. So let me just go over the topics that I want to discuss, and we'll take them on one at a time. There's 5 or 6 of them. The first topic is Trump. The second topic is androgyny. The third topic is artificial intelligence. The fourth topic is intersectionality. The fifth topic is ontology. The sixth and final topic is futurism. So we'll just take those briefly one at a time. And I will talk to myself, and then I will answer myself. So my first question to myself is, what do you think is going on with Trump? Well, I think a lot of it can be explained astrologically. I don't know whether you believe in astrology, as they say, or not, but I've studied it a little bit, not very much, but a little bit. But I know enough to know that there's something to it, and then after you study it a little bit, even a little bit, you can get a feel for it. And so what's happening, and has been happening for the last 12 years or so, is Pluto in Capricorn, and that means that Pluto's although scientists have said Pluto is no longer considered a planet. Astrologers still consider it quite a forceful planet, and it's one of the most forceful planets. When Pluto decides to enter a house or transit some kind of aspect in your chart, you know that you're going to do or die. This is going to be a thorough cleansing. And I think that's what's happening now. And in Capricorn, it means that Pluto is going to thoroughly cleanse those things that relate to Capricorn, which are the past, institutions, traditions, the way things have always been. And so Trump is a real manifestation that we are in for something new. And Trump is kind of the the destroyer in Hindu philosophy, which I'm going to show my ignorance again, but Vishnu and the other guy, there's three of them, but one of them is the god of destruction, and one of the god of creation, and I don't know the names, but one of them is you have to have destruction before you can get something new. You have to get rid of the old. And so that's what Pluto is trying to do in Capricorn, and that's what Trump is trying to do, whether he knows it or not, in this country. And there are other examples of Trumpism around the world. So I knew what the questions were going to be, so I did have a chance to write down a few notes. And one of the notes I have written down here is consciousness rules and government follows. So, we keep thinking that change is going to happen as soon as we get the right people in office or something like that. But the premise of ontology, which is the study of being, the science of being, is that consciousness rules. And when a change of consciousness happens, that's when, the so-called rulers will follow what is the new consciousness. Another way to say that is the people rule and the government follows. So this is all to say that there is a connection between spirituality and politics. A lot of people don't like to see that connection, but politics is the effort to govern ourselves, and spirituality is nothing if not the effort to govern ourselves. So politics is just the effort to govern ourselves writ large, as they say. So I may be of a different opinion than the traditional spiritual leader or teacher, but I think politics is so important. I mean, if we can't govern ourselves in public institutions, then what are we doing? What are we doing in spirituality? I got to take a break. I need a glass of water, so we'll have a musical interlude for a few minutes here, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. I think I kind of blurred that last response more than I needed to. But there is a connection between spirituality and politics. And we're not going to change the world or even our life by meditating in some cave in on top of a mountain. So let's not try to do that. Recently, Marianne Williamson, who's very well known from The Course in Miracles, and she's written many, many best-selling books. She said, and she ran for Congress in LA. And she didn't make it, but she learned some things from her run. And now she's considering a run for president. And I don't know how far she'll get, probably not very far, but I think it's important to have people like that running for office, because like I say, there's a real connection between spirituality and politics. In the Bathtub Bulletin, during the last election, I wrote down voting as a spiritual activity, and got some support for that statement, because it is, if you know, the old Greek way of running things was that everybody would be, they're not elected so much as they take turns being government officials, so it would be like jury duty, and so you would rotate being on the council that decided things, and if you did not participate in that, you were called an idiota, or whatever Greek word is the root of our word idiot. So only the idiots are not taking part in the political situation in our world, in our country, in our city. I just talking a little bit more about politics. I'd like to say that a friend of mine in the Prosperos, which is the school that I belong to, says at one point he called me affectionately, he called me an old lefty, and I don't buy that left right wing thing. I think think that there are those who are dedicated to hanging on to the past, and I guess they would traditionally be called right wing, and there are those who want to have a more cooperative and group-centered approach to governance than the individualistic approach of the right wing, and those people are called left wing. But that's a stupid way to it equates the two sides, and they're not equal. I think it has to be more, instead of horizontal, it has to be vertical. There are those people that have transcended greed a bit, have transcended selfishness, have transcended individuality even, to rise up to a higher level of consciousness. And traditionally that's been called the left wing, but I think it needs to be called something else, like I don't know what, but maybe someday we'll come up with a name for that kind of thing. But left wing and right wing is not the proper designation. There has to be some people functioning from the lower urges, which are fine and important. I mean, we need to breathe and sleep and have sex and raise children if we want to, and that kind of thing. But there are higher urges, and that's urges of cooperation, of group problem solving, of even transcendence. So let's come up with a name for a new approach to politics. Okay, one of the, like I said before, now I'm losing my voice. Like I said before, I belong to the Prosperos, which is a school of ontology, study of beingness. And the premise of that is that each of us are whole, complete, perfect in our being, in our beingness. And if the more and more we can learn to function from our beingness, then the more transcendent and the more will belong to the upper party, political party, than the lower political party. But one of the classes I really enjoy in the Prosperos is something called Cosmic Intention Therapy, and this gives an overview of the ascent of consciousness from man as a caveman, or walking around with few tools and rudimentary language, to landing on the moon and exploring Mars. So it's not just an ascent of technology; it's an ascent of consciousness. We are not satisfied and never have been satisfied with things the way they are, and now Pluto is helping us get rid of some of the dead wood in our politics. But mankind has never been satisfied with things the way they are. So CIT presents the overview of humanity as not just trying to solve climate change or things like that, but to greater and greater come to the realization that we are not bound by our forms, our body. We are mind with limitless capacity to communicate, to transcend traditions and reducing valves of the past. So I think cosmic intention therapy is a class that gives us hope for the future, rather than just, can we make it so that we don't kill the planet? It's something greater that's going on than just trying to, not bomb ourselves to death or with atomic bombs, or make the planet unlivable through climate change. The threat of these kind of things is something that is a part of our consciousness feeding back to us, saying that we are in a crisis moment, and the reason we're in a crisis moment is that we need to re-identify, not as grasping intellectual animals trying to hang on to our family and the world, but we are citizens of the universe. We have a right to be here, and we have a corresponding responsibility to act in a universal way. Our teacher, my teacher, Thane, summed it up by saying adamantly at one point, I am an open-ended system. I am an open-ended system. There is who preceded her, Emmett Fox, Religious Science, A Course in Miracles, all this kind of new thinking. You're not finding this coming out of France or Italy or the Soviet Union. I'm really dating myself there, aren't I? Or Russia, or Africa, maybe India, but probably not, because I think they're kind of stuck in the past too. Well, that's just what I wanted to say about politics in the United States, is that, if you're going to call the United States an exceptional country, I would agree. And the reason is that we are exceptionally able to start new, to start over, to begin something brand new. I mean, the people came over here to this country. They decimated millions of Native Americans. Then they brought a few 100,000 slaves along with them. But anyhow, the people that came to this country were dedicated to starting a new life. And that's exactly the kind of DNA that you need to create something like the New Thought movement, the New Age movement, and teachings in ontology schools such as the Prosperos. Okay, the next topic is androgyny. The YouTube sensation Jordan Peterson. Some people in the Prosperos school, my friends, don't like him. Think he's kind of right-wing nut job or something like that. But like I say, I think like I've said before in other videos, I think I love his interpretation of the Pinocchio story. But here's something I do disagree with what he said. Jordan Peterson says men are more interested in things and women are more interested in people, according to data that he represents. And so this is where ontology would disagree. Ontology teaches that there is no male being and there's no female being, there's just being. And since there is no male being and no female being, the only kind of being that is androgyny. So androgynous being challenges the idea that men are more interested in things and women are more interested in people. That may be and it is the data that's been collected by various people that collect that kind of data. But our goal is to transcend that kind of data. Our goal is to transcend the kind of thinking that men, little boys like playing with guns, little girls like playing with dolls. One example might be our approach to medicine. In the Western medicine, we are more and more fascinated by our wonderful gadgets, our MRIs, our CTs, our CT scans, and some really amazing things coming up where robots can, little robots, AIs, artificial intelligences can go into your body and find out what's wrong and presumably fix it. And that's really, maybe as my male interested in things, but that really is an interesting thing. But as Dr. Andrew Weil points out, very rarely in medical school do they talk about healing. They're talking about pathology, but they don't spend very much time talking about healing. And Andrew Weil goes into the whole idea that placebo is not a stupid thing, it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. We should explore more and more about placebo. How do placebos work? Placebo is the mind deciding it's going to heal itself, even though technically there's no biological reason for it to do so. And then I learned a new word the other day called nocebo, which is the obverse effect, where the mind can screw you up. Or an example would be, this is also from one of Dr. Weil's books. A doctor told his patient, well, get ready to be in a wheelchair because this is going to be how many days you have left before you're going to not be able to walk. And so you plant that kind of thing in somebody's head. That's called a nocebo. So bringing androgyny to the field of medicine means let's say, being equally fascinated with gadgets as we are with the healing itself. All right, equally fascinated with the body as we are with the mind. Equally fascinated with healing as we are with technology. Okay, the third topic, artificial intelligence. Fear of artificial intelligence means we really don't understand who or what we are. We are the ability to be aware of ourselves as awareness, and artificial intelligence can't do that. So, Ray Kurzweil and others say that we're approaching the moment of singularity, in which artificial intelligence will, there'll be a kind of tipping point where artificial intelligence will become more important than biological intelligence or human intelligence. But ontology teaches us that we are neither artificial intelligence nor biological intelligence. We are intelligence. And that's why ontology teaches that there is nothing to fear about anything really, but about if you know that your real identity is intelligence itself, awareness itself, consciousness itself, then what does it matter how it expresses, whether it's in your pet cat or your pet robot? And we will form personal connections with our with artificial intelligence, just like we form a personal connection or relationship with our cell phone. Or I was, lost in Long Beach a couple of months ago, and I started talking to Google and asking her directions, and we had quite a personal relationship. And I think this carries over into our relationship with God. It's hard to think of God as abstract intelligence. So, we give God a personality, and that can get us into a lot of trouble. Because, like it said in the Bible, in Genesis, man is made in God's image and likeness, and ever since man has been making God in His image and likeness, and like I say, that can get us into a bit of trouble. Okay, the next topic is intersectionality. Intersectionality is a really popular thing that's coming up with a lot of, well, I hate to use the word left wing, but I guess that's the term we're using nowadays, but left wing groups where, you're judged by your race, your gender, your ethnic origin, and wow, I think I just learned something about my camera. Apparently there's a time limit on how long you can talk. And I thought I would not have enough to say. But here we are talking a mile a minute. And so we're going to try to get back to this topic on intersectionality. Intersectionality is an effort by mostly what we call left-wing people to address the inequalities in the past of sex, sexual preference, race, ethnicity, and so on. So, so there's quite a bit of one. Before I was so rudely interrupted by my camera, I was harking back to the days in the '70s when I had a black boyfriend who you know, he would out-Trump me because he was black and gay and I was white and gay, and we would always joke that, you know, the real winner in the persecution competition would be a black gay woman. So this is kind of what intersectionality is doing, is trying to, in my opinion, is trying to address these concerns about the powerlessness or apparent powerlessness of being black, being a woman, being gay, being whatever you want to, transgender, whatever you want to bring into the intersection. But and the point is that you know, if you're a white male, a heterosexual white male, then you automatically have privilege, which you need to acknowledge and somehow repent for, I suppose. I think ontology teaches us, as I've said before, that our identity is mind itself, and that transcends race, gender, sexual orientation, ethnicity. And if we can function more and more from the state of being, or from the state of consciousness itself, awareness itself, then we can learn to depend less and less on either the privileges inherent in intersectionality or the lack of privileges inherent in intersectionality. So I think intersectionality is a big danger or big stumbling block on the way to understanding ourselves as mind itself, as consciousness itself, and so I would be very wary of it. I think that to tell a young white male that he should be apologetic for the privilege or that he has had all his life is not healthy for anybody. It's not healthy for the white boy. It's not healthy for society. And you're going to either make the white boy feel tremendously guilty about being a white boy, or you're going to have them feel tremendously resentful, which is going to create the kind of things that we're seeing more and more now that Trump has been elected. The kind of things where people are marching down the street saying Jews will not replace us, or carrying their tiki torches through streets of North Carolina. Nietzsche, we all know who Nietzsche was, stressed the importance of the individual. But again, there needs to be balance. The only reason to stress the importance of the individual is so that the individual can work within a group. If the individual has reached a state of total integration, wellness, wholeness, what the hell point would that be if he or she was not able to integrate within a group? So there's a balance again in androgyny between our identity as an individual and our identity and usefulness within a group. If we can't see everybody in a group as being an aspect of our identity as consciousness, as awareness, as being, then if we limit certain people, say, well, that's not me. As Shakespeare said about Caliban, this I claim my own. So no matter what people we meet in life, this I claim as my own. Okay, 2 more topics here to go. Ontology. We mentioned a little bit about this. The science of being, the study of being. Socrates says, I know that I know nothing. And that's, I think, a way of saying that Socrates was so famous for deconstructing everything that when you get down to it, all you know, like Descartes, is I think, therefore I am. And so Socrates is saying, I know that I know nothing. I know that I am the knower. And that's the important thing. Our teacher, my teacher, Thane, got very excited about getting rid of big chunks of ego. And to him, that was an accomplishment worth a lot. And why is that? Because when you get rid of big chunks of ego, that opens up space for mind, for consciousness itself, for, universal mind, infinite mind, whatever you want to call it, to come through. And this can come through in every aspect of our life. So that's why we have to study our past history. I study our dreams. I have recently put up a website called zontaphotos.com, and I keep a diary of my dreams, but also a diary of my daily activities relating to those dreams. So insights I've had about my dreams or insights I've had about my past. So, being in ontology requires a lot of work because getting rid of big chunks of ego, as Thane said, is an exciting thing to happen. But it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of determination, and it's a lot easier for people to blame your parents, blame your teachers, blame the high school teacher that diddled with you, as Thane used to say. And then Jesus goes on to say, why callest thou me good? It's the Father indwelling. And that's the point of getting rid of the ego. It's not Jesus that did the things that he did. It's the Father indwelling, or consciousness, or beingness, which has no restriction, no inability, and all ability, limitless ability. The final topic then is futurism, and Ray Kurzweil, as I talked about before, is a wonderful futurist. He predicted all kinds of things that have come through. Remember in the 50s when they were predicting that we would all be riding, maybe you don't remember because you weren't there in the 50s, but for those of us who do remember, we would be riding around in our jetpacks. But this is another example of being more interested in things than in people, because nobody predicted, gay marriage. Nobody predicted the women's movement. So when we're going to do futurism, which we're always doing, we need a futurism based on people as much as things. So I want to show you my 3 websites if you want to know further, get further information about what I've been talking about, and also I'll show them up on the video right now. One is the Bathtub Bulletin, which deals with things of a metaphysical or spiritual nature. The other website I work on and co-edit, is occupysanfrancisco.net. And this is my effort to make spiritual truth an effective force for ordered freedom and common good. And then finally, the website which I referred to earlier, called Zonta Photos. .com/diary, in which I talk about my dreams and the connection between my dreams and, or not just my dreams, but the connection between dreams and the waking life. So I've recently been taking yoga classes, and as we end in all of our yoga sessions, the word namaste means the divine in me bows to the divine in you. So, namaste.